Hello and welcome to another episode of The Conversation. I am your host, AD. Today we're talking to married couples about empathetic listening. Not pathetic listening, empathetic listening. Who do we have with us here today?
Hi, I'm Jamal Boyce. This is my lovely wife, Sherry Boyce.
Welcome to The Conversation, you guys.
Thank you.
And who do we have over here?
I am Nick Bravo, and this is my lovely Mrs. Brittany Bravo over here.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you guys for being here. Appreciate it. It's going to be a great time. I want to read something to you guys first and get your responses to it.
Okay.
All right. I'm not going to tell you where this is from. Okay. Just want to get your response. Understand this, my dear brothers and sisters. You must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Human anger does not produce the righteousness of God. Any thoughts about being quick to listen?
I would say for us, this is a key when it's a work in progress right now because we're 2 years in our marriage and I am the angry person, although I look laid back, but when a button is pressed, I'm the one who's quick to respond, and I look foolish when I do it, when I think about it afterwards. So it's one that's a work in progress, but thank goodness for God, He's working on both of us how to deal with each other and be more empathetic and listen rather than snap off at the mouth. So.
Yeah. Before I get to you guys just yet, I want to read something else to you guys. People with understanding control their anger. A hot temper shows great foolishness. Who's the hot-tempered one here on this side? That's. So you're the foolish one.
I'm a big fool.
You're a big fool. Okay.
7 years in a marriage. I ain't got no excuses. But I'm it's an issue of self-control for sure. But I think I'm learning just recently. I think it's listening just allows for understanding. Like I get angry because I think I understand the situation and I've made my assumptions, and so I speak. But actually, if I just sit back and shut up for a little bit, I actually get less angry because the things I was assuming get addressed when she talks a little longer.
So I'm gonna read one more thing that speaks to exactly what you just said. Too much talk leads to sin. Be sensible and keep your mouth shut. That's the Bible, okay? That's the Bible.
So should we not talk the rest of the time?
You don't want to be a fool on natural.
We're all just going to be quiet.
Okay, that was Proverbs 10:19. So with that in mind, okay, we'll start with you guys, Nick. Who's the better listener of you two? She is. Okay. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Not all the time.
Oh, what about over here, Jamal?
I think we're equally poor, but
I was trying to get that out of this side over here, but okay. But go ahead, elaborate.
Yeah, I wasn't ready to admit my sin yet.
I think I'm more the one who interjects. So I think, I'm the one who interjects rather than allowing her to speak. But she's the one who actually allows me to speak and get my point off. So I would say she's the better listener, and as it applies to that. So
okay. So what's the biggest struggle for you, Nick, about being quick to listen, slow to speak, or slow to get angry? Where do you struggle the most?
Is it like a package, like all three?
Really?
No, well, okay. Well, I liken it like this because
Package 1, 2, or all of the above.
We all have jobs. I think sometimes men have problem-solving jobs, and I get paid to come up with quick answers in my work.
Yeah.
And when I come with quick answers, I'm respected for that.
Yeah.
I'm coming, here's something, solve it. Here's something, solve it. Oh, she's not my client. So the problem is if I take that same principle into our marriage, it's foolishness. In the business world, it worked for my setting. And so part of it is that where I take the same method, I try to answer or solve something quickly, and I don't really, our marriage doesn't need to be made of that. And so I think a part of it is just when I'm not quick to listen, then I'm usually quick to speak, and I'm usually quick to get angry because it all roots back from not listening.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's a package thing for me. I get angry when I don't listen.
Yeah.
And
so practically, what? Give me an example of some things that have happened where.
Way over.
you just feel my life, man. No, we had. Well, no, that wasn't that bad, but. There's just a lot of. Go ahead.
No, if you don't want to get too personal, you don't have to. But
I don't care. I don't know. We're
might
too worried
care.
about it.
right.
She's usually the one that's all good, so it's not me. It's about me.
It's really
Nah,
about
I
him,
just,
yeah.
I mean, I'm just well aware of my issues with anger and what God's doing to me, and I'm in such a good spot in the sense that He's broken my pride. So I'm not, whatever. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
So, I think for me, there's just so much. I think what I actually like to do is get to the root of behind the listening, and I didn't want to listen because I'm lazy, because it takes a lot of work, and a lot of times I don't want to listen because you want to talk a lot and have a heart-to-heart at night, or just want to have a heart-to-heart all the time, and I just want to squash it and do what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I realized a lot of the listening issues weren't listening, it was laziness. And so because I was apathetic towards our marriage and listening, then I would get mad when we'd have to have big conversations, because what was it doing? It was messing with my time and my schedule and my focus.
So it kind of sounds like it was harder to listen because what was being said wasn't that important to you. You wanted to get to the facts, get done with it, push on.
Yeah, I want to solve it and be done with it, but that's not marriage.
Right.
And
okay.
that's that's also because I don't, my heart isn't in the place to serve her. My heart is to serve myself.
Yeah.
So I think the heart issue is once I start focusing on my purpose is to serve her and reconcile and love her, then I have to shift my schedule and my time and everything to suit that. But I think for a long time it's been kind of, let's just squash this as quick as possible. And so I wasn't looking to dive deep, and I wasn't looking to understand. So I'd say that the symptoms are not listening, but the root was selfishness and laziness and my own personal agenda that was affecting the way we communicate.
So I want to ask a question to the ladies, specifically because you guys are the better listeners, allegedly. When was the last time you guys had a communication breakdown because you weren't listening all that well?
Well, I know for us it was last week or the week before last. We had an issue about milk.
Okay.
Seems trivial and small.
Right.
But the doctor told him one thing, I wanted it to be another, and so he was telling me fact, and I decided no, that's not it. Not even listening or hearing what he said, but just going off on what I think and what other people were saying and what I think it should be, and not really, no, this is what it is. I'm telling you what it is, and so then that breeds frustration on his end because I'm not listening to him.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when that was happening, Jamal, how did that affect you? How did that make you?
Because it's like Nick, I operate differently, and so when I come at Sherry, I come from to me it seems like common logical, like this, and her train of thought is so totally different. So when the topic was about baby's milk, and so I'm like, I went to the doctor, this is what the doctor said, and if you had questions about the milk, you should have told me at that point in time. And I'm like, who are your sources? She's like, other mothers. I'm like, so I was trying to apply the facts, and she's applying the motherly love and the opinions from them, but neither of us took in the fact that we needed to respond in love and with the sense of God in the midst. And so I was responding with facts. She was responding with her motherly flesh, and none of us had the spirit involved in our
motherly flesh.
Motherly flesh.
And I think too, what happens is men, they can compartmentalize everything.
Oh, yeah.
For women, it's all emotional,
Yeah.
and it's like a plate of spaghetti. Everything is mixed in together. We can't really separate it. So for me, it's emotional. I want the best for my daughter, and knowing that he wants the best for her as well.
Right.
So.
But you know the best though.
I know what her cries mean.
Right. So
I listen.
you guys, when empathetic listening is not in play in the relationship, in the marriage, when the other party is not hearing you because they know what's right, or they've already figured it out, or they already have the answer, how does that? Let me ask you, how does that make you feel when Nick doesn't listen to what you're trying to communicate, and he kind of dismisses it, or just kind of wants to push past it, or kind of hurries you along to get to the point? What does that do to you?
It shuts me down, just kind of, I actually just did that to him. So it's sort of like, I just did it to him. So, but it makes me feel that he doesn't, my opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, he doesn't care. I'm not important. Yeah, you're not worth it.
Yeah.
So.
Does that stay with you? Does that start to build?
At some point, if we don't reconcile,
Yeah.
you know, and work through it and talk through it, where I hear him say, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize I did that to you. You know, I apologize. Will you forgive me?" Then it's like I understand that was just a sinful nature and that he was just going off on, you know, just what he was feeling in the moment.
Right.
Then it, you know, reconciles it all back to it. But if it's not reconciled in the moment, yes, the next time we're getting into an argument, that compiles, you
Comes
know,
right
just
back,
right
yeah.
back in, and it's like, well, you did this last week, you know.
Right. How about you, Nick? When your wife doesn't listen to you effectively and she misses what you're saying or just dismisses what you're saying, what does that do to you?
I usually get angry, but it's just because I feel like I can't explain it. It's like, you know, you're trying to say something and it's hitting a brick wall, and the other person is not even allowing it in, and so I feel like disrespected. I feel like you're not even trying to understand.
Yeah.
You're not even trying to figure out what's going on.
Does it make you want to communicate any further, or does it?
It usually makes me want to break things, but that's my own problem. But what happens is that I don't know how to liken it like this, but there's so much pressure because there's so much miscommunication, and it feels like there's this going on.
Yeah.
And when you're communicating, you're trying to express something that's inside,
Yeah.
and so then it feels like it's locked inside. And if
Yeah.
I can't express it. It's like sometimes I want to hit something just because it's just like I need to get it out, and I'm saying it, and it's just not.
Yeah.
It's not
Connecting.
sticking,
Yeah.
and it's very frustrating.
Yeah.
And
This
so
being misunderstood is extremely frustrating. When you're communicating a point that you know is very clear,
Yeah.
and the other party
Your mind, yeah.
is not taking it as clear as you think it is,
Exactly.
or they dismiss it and don't think it is as important as you feel it is.
Yeah.
You take that on to your whole person.
Yeah.
Like, you're not important. It's no longer about the point anymore. It's
Yeah.
about
Exactly.
me.
Me, yes.
You don't value me as your husband or me as your wife. You don't
You
value
don't
me.
love me.
You don't love
I'm
me.
not important.
Right.
I'm not
Yeah.
beautiful to you anymore.
Exactly.
We just went emotional. Oh,
You go straight to the emotion.
right up the spaghetti.
Right. Indeed. So that's why it's important for us as married people to be able to develop the skill of empathetic listening, meaning really have compassion on the person that's speaking, so that we can actually hear what they're saying and even ask questions to get to the root of what they're trying to communicate. So we got the bad side from you guys, where the breakdowns kind of happen. What are some good things where you've seen it play out really well, where you're communicating with each other really well, and one person's talking, the other person is actually listening empathetically? Has that happened? You guys still trying to get there?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't say
One time.
Happens few and far between. Yeah, once a year.
few.
No.
Well, you guys, Jamal, tell me about a time where it happened.
I
how did that
can't
go?
remember exactly the issue, but I just remember the feeling when she actually came to me and she sat down. She asked, was it a time to talk? And I think that's one of the biggest things is like we come to agreement when to talk, and so we're in the right mind state. So one of us doesn't pop off or anything. But she came and said, I heard what you had to say, and you were saying this, this, and this. And I understand it because it makes me feel like when this such. So then I was relating to her by what she was expressing. So we kind of like linked up, and like I was like, wow, this actually feels really good because she actually, and it's like next to it is like sometimes most of the time when I would talk, it'd be like I'm talking against a brick wall, and so then I'm repeating everything I said, and then we're just going back in this loop, and it's a cycle. And so just to see that we connected on something, it's like we finally broke ground and we can move forward from that issue and then apply that same method to the next issue. And so I think with that, it's just like we have those things, those monuments or those things, those successful things, and it's usually on the second conversation.
Yeah.
So we want to have those second conversations first, where we're in the right mindset, where we are listening, where we are empathetic, instead of initially going at each other thinking we're enemies, and that's not the case, and we're just allowing the enemy to basically break us down. So.
Yeah. You know, what are some of the things that you guys can practically do to let the other person know that, yeah, I'm listening to you? Like, when I'm talking to Jamal, if I'm looking at Jamal and he's looking back at me, then that's a good kind of gauge. He's probably listening. He might not be, because men, we have this skill
Yeah.
to look you dead in your eye
Did you say something?
and not
Where are we?
and not hear a word you said, you know, like Nick just did.
I think it goes back to kind of what he just said. In that instance, when we effectively communicating, I was actually empathizing with his heart of
Right.
what he was talking about. So coming to him and saying first, you know, is this a good time to talk? You know, a minute ago we were both steam coming out of our ears, but you know, we go to our corners, pray, and then come back and seeing if that's a good time to talk. And then if so, letting him really express his heart. And before even saying my opinion, if I disagree or not, you know, letting him know, this is what I heard you said.
Yeah.
You know, please let me know if I'm still misinterpreting or if this is correct. And then we can move on from there. Once he agrees that, yes, that's what I'm saying,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, then you can move on.
And Jamal pointed out something else, that you were able to give him an example of how you were able to relate to what he was saying from your own personal experience. That lets the other person know that, you know, okay, you get it. You understand. You understand.
Yes.
You know, kind of what I'm saying at this moment. You know, I speaking directly to someone, eye contact is important. Okay, but then
Except if the game is on.
if the game,
Except if the game is on.
that's a completely different issue.
Or your phone is in your hand.
Completely different issue. But in those times when the conversation is just not going well and it's heated, what you guys did was very important. Where you came back and said, "Is this a good time?" Because it's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard to listen to someone
Exactly.
when you're hot
Yep.
and you're angry and you want to get your point. You can care less about their point.
Exactly.
I-
You're not ready for it.
Right, you know.
Yeah.
So in what would you guys suggest doing in moments like that when the heat is on and there's things that need to get communicated, but you're angry. Nick, you've talked about anger, so let me get you to address that real quick.
Well, I'm still very much in the process of learning this. But I think, well, trying to get it before it escalates to that much heat, first of all. When
Yeah.
it starts feeling it getting escalated, and I think sometimes if we're both trying to listen and we feel that we're getting too hot, I think it would be beneficial to be able to say, like, I think we need to cool off, or we need to go talk.
There's
we
been
need
a
to
lot
go,
of times
we need
where
to
it
get a
walks
step
away.
away.
Yeah.
I'll tell you I need to go on a walk because I'm a very passionate person, and so I'm passionately excited, passionately everything. When I'm angry, I am hot, and so it's like there's blood rush to my brain. I feel like 100 degrees hotter, and it's like I need to go walk.
Yeah.
And so for her and me, it's like I have to realize that if I stay, I'll hurt the relationship
Yeah,
more. And
whether- yeah.
even though she might not want me to leave at the moment, it's better because
It's better that I
you're gonna
go.
get more of me and probably more of Christ if I come back, because I'll go talk to Christ and wrestle with him, and then he'll always submission me. And then by the time I come home, I'm all right.
Just calm down, ready
I think
to
I think
talk.
being able, but I think that upfront conversation before you're angry, that you both mutually agree that, listen, if it starts getting really angry or we start getting in this situation, that if we say we need a space,
Yeah.
that we need to respect that.
Yeah.
And then
Yes.
when you're in the middle, because when you're in the middle of that, and even if I say I need to walk, she doesn't want me to walk sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, and it's that the commitment to each other though, and God, that like the goal is to reconcile, and so if us being together right now is not going to reconcile, then we need to do what's gonna work, and so we need to like step away a little bit
Yeah.
and cool off.
Yeah, and listening is two people that are involved in that. So, for example, if one party knows that there's trigger words that are going to cause flames to engulf the room, let's not use those trigger words so that we can actually hear what's actually the point of the conversation. So for me, with my wife, the trigger word is never always you know,
Blanket
that
statement.
today?
We were just talking about this today.
every time.
All the time.
Yeah,
Every time
yeah.
you
You,
say that.
you throw that dart at me, I'm gonna walk. I'm gonna do a Nick, and I'm gonna go walk and talk to the Lord.
Yeah.
You know, because you tell me I never do something,
Exactly.
when I know,
There
I
have
be
been
doing
a
it.
couple times where I've done it, right?
right? I at least did it once, so don't say I never. You know, and being able to listen to know that those trigger words are trigger words
Yes.
means you paid attention to your partner, and you're sympathetic and you're empathetic towards not wanting to get them to get upset. You know,
Yeah.
so you guys practically talk to the people and tell them. We'll go around and tell them some practical steps, some advice you would give to be a better empathetic listener in your marriage. Some things you've learned, experiences you've had that will make you better at doing this. We'll start with Jamal.
I think the first thing would be just setting aside a time to do it. But if you know it's going to be a big issue or a hostile issue, sometimes, most of the time with us, it's even little issues, but praying beforehand so you're in the right mindset, allowing the Holy Spirit to keep your mouth shut and to allow your words to come out in love, because like was stated earlier, like when I speak to her in a certain tone, she just shuts down, and it doesn't matter what I say, she's not going to receive anything I say. So just having the right heart and being in the right place to receive what she has to say, even if you may not like it at all, but at least you'll resolve the issue much quicker, because it's worse when you say words that you shouldn't say and it goes back and forth, and then you have to come back even days later and like resolving the same. So you can resolve a lot more just by being under the influence of the Holy Spirit. So just taking that time and just acknowledging a good time to have this conversation, whatever it may be. And because like we were just talking about it this morning, it's like in the morning is not probably the greatest time to talk to me because I'm grumpy and I got to get up for my commute, and so I won't respond in like the most loving way. So we need to just set aside a time that works best for both of us, especially with having a baby. I know it's difficult, but we still have to work on things and have whatever conversation we need to have between us two. So.
No listening for you in the morning.
No.
Okay.
No.
Sherry, what advice would you give?
I would say, if it's in the heat of the moment, like we kind of just talked about, have a safe word or a safe phrase that you can say to your spouse that, I'm getting ready to boil over, I need a minute. But really let it be a minute. Don't let it go to a day or 2 or 3, because we've done that and it makes it a lot harder to reconcile because you've been alone with your thoughts.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh boy.
and that could be really dangerous, unless you are sitting before the Lord.
Yes.
And really have that set time that you do come back. Like, don't let it go for days at a time, because that could be really, really bad.
Yeah.
So come back that same day, maybe 30 minutes to an hour, whatever you need to calm down and go before the Lord, and then come back.
So not 30 hours.
Not 30.
Not 30
3.
hours?
No,
Okay.
no, not even 3. That's too long.
Okay, that's too long. Just a quick point. My wife would hate it when I would say, I can't do this right now.
Oh, yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying.
She would hate it. Baby, if you're watching, I still love you. But
that may be what you need.
it definitely was what I needed to step away for a period of time. So that's very good advice. What would you advise couples to do to avoid these pitfalls of communication and to be better empathetic listeners?
I think just like what Sherry was saying too, being in the Word and having a time of being alone before the Lord, because it sets you, so when you get in those times of confrontation, you are able to have more of a biblical picture of how you should respond instead of, and also being able to have those conversations when you need to work through something, when you're well rested too. Exactly. It can't always be that way, but it's very important to make sure that you're all together, mentally and emotionally, because if you're going to start a full-on conversation and try and break through things, work through it, you're going to get frustrated because you're exhausted, and you can't think straight. So I think the two big things is making sure that your mindset is stayed upon the Lord and the truth, and also being rested and being ready for that, prepared for that, because it's just going to be a mess if you're not, crying and just tired, and you're going to think you're right, even though later on you're going to wake up there's plenty of times I'll wake up the next morning and I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I say last night? I was so tired,
So you guys have had those conversations where it's late at night and you got to trying to hash through something, but both parties are super tired.
He calls it our powwow.
Okay.
Let's not have a powwow at night.
Fight.
Yeah, let's not have a powwow at night.
12 o'clock at night,
1 o'clock
in the morning.
So that's just not unique to my house, huh?
Keeping rest, So keeping rest and being in the Word is very, very key to your marriage. You need it to have those times. So.
I agree. Nick?
I think I agree with that. I echo it. If I look back at like 75% of our fights, it's usually when I'm exhausted or it's that impatience to, because you might seem good to want to reconcile it right away, but that some of it's impatience. Like I just want to solve it right now, and because I'm not willing to like walk away, or because I'm not willing to we might have to just get some sleep. Women hate that too. Like, we don't want to go to sleep.
And then the verse comes, don't let the sun go down in your anger.
I'm not angry.
So angry.
I'm not angry. I'm not angry yet. I'm not fighting. I just need sleep. I just need to sleep, and I won't get angry. But if we do fight, but I think it's immensely practical. I mean, they say when you have like a certain amount of sleep, a lack of sleep, you're so fatigued. And like you said, like none of us would ever go to the gym with like no sleep and go do bench press and go run miles. Our bodies wouldn't be able to handle it, and we'd injure ourselves. But yeah, we do it all the time in marriage. And I think that's a big thing with me and her is a lot of times I'll throw something out there, like a topic that could possibly go a different way, but I don't think it's going to go bad. But I didn't create space for it to go a different way, so I'll throw it out there as a side statement. And then we have to unpack it, and I'm like, I don't have time to unpack it. Like,
What did I just do?
no, but like this is like legitimately, I don't have time. Not that I'm being lazy. I literally only had like 5 minutes here, and I thought this would have went this way, but now that it's gone this way, so really pre-thinking about like what am I gonna say, and really how could this be taken, and then if it's taken down this way, do I have the emotional energy and the time to really address it? If I don't, I probably should shut my mouth until I have the space to actually say that or bring that up.
Yeah. My one little advice is just know your partner. I mean, really know your partner and understand and be accepting of your partner. The way they hear, you have no control over. Okay? You have none whatsoever. But the way you communicate, you have complete and total control over it. And if you know your partner, you're able to communicate in a way that they can actually hear it. You know, if you know that your partner is emotional, okay, then touch on the emotion that you're actually feeling, that you want to communicate to her, because she can respond to that better. Or if you know your partner is a more logical thinking type person, then speak in those types of terms. Speak in those terms because they're more likely to be able to get it and understand. But if you speak in your own language to someone who doesn't speak your language,
They're not gonna understand.
they're gonna look at you like, I don't care what you just said. It made no sense.
Yeah.
You know?
Or this is what I
Definitely. It's a
heard.
great
Right.
And he's like, that's not what I said.
I'm sure we've all
not
had
what I
that. We've all had that experience where someone, the person we're with, says, "That didn't make any sense to me."
Yeah.
Yep.
You were speaking English,
Yeah.
but it made complete no sense to them at all, because we're not speaking the same language.
And I think another tip as well is just starting off, if you know it's going to be a tense conversation, is starting off with affirmation, the positive things that your spouse may do, because that lowers that guard that they might have up if you start off like you and then always and all that stuff. So that just
Give them the sandwich. It's called the sandwich. You give 'em-
Raising the trust level.
right. You give them
Well,
the.
for me, it's ice
You
cream.
give them. Is it ice cream?
Yeah.
So you
Simply
give them the
icing on
bread.
cake.
Okay, that's the soft part. Then you give them the meat. Give it to them. You hook it up with the bread and the soft part. Okay. You guys, thank you guys for being here on the
Thank
conversation.
you.
Really, guys,
Yes.
appreciate you guys coming out, helping us out with the conversation. You guys, thank you for watching, for being a part of this. Make sure you guys subscribe to our channel. If you haven't, do it right now. We'll be back next time for another episode of The Conversation.